Bro, legends are creepy enough on their own. But the darker ones make you wonder what people were trying to warn us about. Today, we're getting into Qalupalik, terrifying Arctic myths, and chilling stories that make teen eyes feel way more dangerous than it is. Come on, man. This is Brosky Ray. Let's go!
Disclaimer: this video is for entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research, as these clips haven't been fact-checked.
Qalupalik, the monster below who never blinks, because it's constantly watching and it only preys on little children. You're in the Arctic, it's freezing cold. The people in the village are always very clear. Do not go on the thin ice. Do not go to the edge of the water. This little boy is out on an adventure with his dog and they're walking around and suddenly he hears a tap and there's no one around. It's just him and his dog. He keeps following the sound of this tap. So he gets to the edge of the water because he thinks there might be somebody under there. So he looks over and then suddenly a long, scaly, slimy hand grabs his ankle, pulls him into the water. The dog starts panicking, trying to grab at him. He tries to grab at the dog and the kid goes underwater. The dog runs back to the village, starts barking like crazy. They realize the kid's not with them. So they follow this dog. The dog's going absolutely nuts and he takes him to the edge of the water. He's literally looking at the water barking. And they realize this may have been a visit from what they call the Qalupalik, which is a humanoid aquatic creature. And it's been passed down through generations in indigenous culture all over. This creature lives under the ice near shorelines in dark, shallow coastal waters. Apparently, it feeds off their youth so she can never age. This is a very scary story for little children, so I'm sorry. But
Maybe it's a folklore because it sounds like a sea lion. What do you think?
The Gnostics named the divine feminine, Sophia. She fell from heaven and trapped human consciousness in matter as she fell. In 1945, farmers near Nag Hammadi cracked open a sealed jar. 13 leather codices buried for 1600 years. One text describes what happened before Genesis. Sophia was an aeon inside the pleroma. She acted alone, without consent. What she birthed had a lion head and a serpent body. It built the material world, every atom of it, a flawed copy of a perfect original. The Apocryphon of John records its declaration, "I am God and there is no other." Orthodox authorities tried to erase the text for 16 centuries. Sophia repented. The world her son built remains. What does it mean that the creator of our reality was never the highest God?
What is talking about?
The future is not what we think. You're probably being told in all these news articles that the future of technology is AI. It is information. But no, the future is in this thing called plasma computing. It is very real and it is coming and it is not in the news and that's why you should listen. Because things that are mainstream, why are they mainstream? What about what they're not saying? Okay, first, information. When something is digitized, when you take a photo and put it on a computer, it is just zeros and ones in different patterns. It does not capture the meaning of you taking a photo of your beautiful dog. It captures what the light looks like. All this information. And our current technology dilutes this intelligence, this essence, what I call plasma intelligence, into information. The same way AI is showing you information with pattern recognition, but there is no real intelligence. There's no intuition. There is no like God or consciousness. I'm sorry, there's not. And this literally makes sense. Why? Because technology is literally incapable of translating this intelligence. It only translates the information. Let me keep going. So precision is increased, but the essence is abstracted when we use technology to make medication, to make tools, satellites, global communication. This works fine for the material world, but it's really a band-aid because we're realizing humanity is changing. These things aren't working for us anymore. We are feeling soulless. We are feeling more disconnected than ever. Everyone is sick. There is a more intelligent, energetic, structural thing beneath it, which is beautiful. It has to do with plasma, which will change the way reality works and will heal us. So when humans look at this information, they, with their consciousness, reattach meaning. So I see the photo of the dog, I feel good, I feel emotion. We naturally can download intelligence. Computers can't. Intuition, God, whatever, higher self. So picture intelligence, condensed in information, and then humans come along and rehydrate it with meaning. We're still at the archaic stages of technology. What is coming next? Plasma computing. It's a technology that does not encode differences. It interacts with fields dynamically based on resonance. This is real, what's happening in the plasma world. So instead of storing information as these binary digits, a plasma-based system can store memory. It can hold the natural intelligence of all things, but it has to be this finer plasma that they can't really explain in science yet, and I wrote a whole book about this. That's what we're figuring out now. But the answer is within plasma. This would maintain the living state instead of losing its essence. It would not be conscious, it would hold intelligence. It would be in resonance with the user, the individual user's consciousness. It would be supportive technology, expanding your consciousness. This would be the basis for interdimensional communication, communicating with your higher self, putting your memories on a screen, a truer representation of all this, because it holds the original intelligence, and it can evolve with us through our consciousness. It would be like a feedback evolution thing. The coolest part is this is restoring what we already can do as humans. Our original technology reflecting outwards. Comment magic to learn how you can do this now.
Did Scooby-Doo warn us about the Anunnaki?
I am not Nova. I have only borrowed her body so that I may bring you an urgent message. Scooby-Doo, your life is in danger. I am of the Anunnaki, interdimensional beings that visit the planet Earth every few thousand years. We arrive at a time called Nibiru, when the barriers between
Man, I love Scooby-Doo when I was a kid.
our worlds grow weak. The Anunnaki have a great history of helping humans, but we have no physical form and must inhabit animals. This is why some animals, our descendants, can talk and others cannot. But not all Anunnaki are kind and good. There are evil ones, and the most evil one of all is imprisoned beneath Crystal Cove and must not be set free. You must undo it, Scooby-Doo. Undo it all. Save yourself. Save your friends. Save the world.
Is it really only animals? And am I the only one that noticed that Scooby-Doo talks an awful lot about switching bodies with people? Notice how we always emphasize Egypt. It's always Egypt. In this scene of the Mommy Return, they're doing a soul transfer. Very similar. Remember when I told y'all the soul is water? Take a look. That's her soul going into the vessel, the new body. Could this be what the Anunnaki taught the humans? You know, they said it was some good and some bad. They always show you. You'll be surprised what you can see in a cartoon. Almost if they have to tell you, but they tell you as an adolescent when you can't comprehend. But this video was purely for entertainment purposes. But make sure to like and comment and let me know what you think.
Remember the Scooby-Doo movie, Spooky Island?
There's just people who do things in this world on behalf of, like, you know, old Uber billionaires that we're just never going to know what's going on.
For sure.
They do horrible, terrible secret stuff.
And they always have.
Yeah.
This is the thing. If like you go throughout history, there's always been secret societies and people that get together with creepy meetings. All that eyes wide shut shit that Kubrick put in his film. That's not, he's not imagining that. No. That's always been a thing.
The officer that discovered his body dead in August was originally charged with falsifying documents.
The Chief Conley, here is the only image that you'll actually see of him in a drawing. And if you look at statues, though, here's a statue of his daughter. If you look at the side of her, they definitely have her head is elongated, which it's kind of interesting. When you go and visit the area, you'll find that there's not nearly as many references to this as you would think. I know a lot of people in the area that are into the same stuff that we are, and they're not aware that this was one of the things that we could see a lot of in the area. And the reason that they did it, they told us why, because it made them better. It made them harder and better and faster and stronger. They were better because of these elongated skulls.
Giants existed, and I have proof. They found a giant skeleton in 1845 in Evansville, Indiana. It was 18 feet tall, and it weighed 1,500 pounds. It was found buried 60 feet below the earth in clay, perfectly preserved. One of its teeth weighed 6 pounds. This is what a 6-pound tooth looks like. This is what an 18-foot tall skeleton looks like. I went to the libraryofcongress.gov where they catalog all newspapers from the beginning of America. They go back to the 1400s. You can go there and search any topic you want. I punched in giant skeleton. It came back with over 20,000 results from the 1800s alone. I clicked on it. Of the first 3, 2 of them were crazy that I found. This one was maybe the craziest. The other 2 could be crazier. Giants had horns, it said. I'll make another video about that. Thank you for watching.
There were even much bigger ones.
People who have higher melanin, let's say Africans or Indians also to some extent, South Americans, would they be more closer to the divine or have that divine connect?
Yeah. So melanin on the physical plane, sure, they taught us that it helps with pigment and skin pigment and things like that. But on a spiritual plane, it can hold light. It can hold light. So the more melanin you have, the more light you can hold and the more power you have. And so that's why a lot of these indigenous nations, okay, in Africa, all over the world, really, in Native America, right? And all over the world, these indigenous cultures have been systematically on purpose persecuted. Not only through the melanin and their ability to hold light, they were guardians of certain lands. It's what's underneath the land. So a lot of people think like, oh, the war for Iraq is for oil, but it's not just for oil. That's what they tell you on the news. Underneath the earth, there's very important portals, and whoever controls these portals controls the energy that flows in and out of Mother Earth. Some people call them stargates. So these indigenous were protectors, and they had melanin, they were able to hold the light, and they had specific codes which were protectors of certain lands. But that's why, if you want to say, Columbus and all these other, the history books will tell you one thing, but no, they were really coming to like take the land of the indigenous and to take the protectors of the land out of the land.
Comment DNA and we'll send you a link to the free 12-strand DNA activation masterclass. It's setting me free and it's setting thousands of other souls free. It works. If you're curious, comment DNA.
Every infection can be cleared in 24 to 48 hours if you didn't give them Tylenol, if you didn't give them Motrin, if you didn't give them steroids to suppress their immune system.
If you can't go longer than 12 hours without starving and feeling like you're going to freak out, that means your body is probably not in the best health-wise.
Every flu virus known to man, there's 29 different flu strains. All of them attack nicotine receptors and are prevented with nicotine.
If you have anxiety, you're probably deficient in magnesium.
Really?
Over the last several years, Dr. Brian Artis and I have done multiple interviews together that reached hundreds of thousands of people. Every single time, there were lines that we could not cross, topics we had to carefully word, data we had to soften, not because it wasn't valid, but because one wrong sentence can mean strikes, suppression, or entire channels being deleted. What you've seen online has been the moderated version. So we made a decision. We are taking the conversation off the algorithm and into a live room. Uncensored, the banned conversation they do not want you to hear. 2 full hours of raw discussion on vaccines, nicotine research, hormones, toxic foods, salt science, preventative health, and deeper mechanics behind modern medicine. No edits, no upload risk, no digital filter. Then a full 90-minute live Q&A where nothing is pre-screened. If you've ever felt like there was more being held back in our interviews, you were right. This is where it all gets said. We'll be in Dallas May 16th. Las Vegas, August 8th, Miami, December 5th, and this is limited to 100 tickets in-person VIP seats. Virtual access will be available, so if you want platform-safe sound bites, stay online. If you want the real conversation, we will see you in the room.
Lady Gaga has become completely different, and everything got worse after her ritual at Coachella. She's not even hiding it anymore. Everyone there thought they were attending a real concert, but it was actually a full-on satanic ritual. Too many people overestimate Lady Gaga, but she stopped being normal the moment she allowed something like being vomited on in public. Yes, that really happened. So imagine what she's capable of in private. It must be far worse. Last year at Coachella, she made a special appearance. There was a Lady Gaga dressed in white and another in black. Both performed Poker Face, her first major hit. At the same time, the entire stage was set on a giant chessboard because, like I told you, it's a ritual, and rituals always take place on a chessboard, what's known as a dualistic plane. And at the end of the performance, the Lady Gaga in black knocks out the one in white, and the floor turns red as if it were blood, because the color red symbolizes sacrifice, the sacrifice of her former self. In reality, if you look at the path of global celebrities, they always follow the same pattern. The person goes through a trial, then is made to show a symbolic death on stage, and then comes back to life. And each time, it comes with a new artistic direction. During that same concert, Lady Gaga performs Paparazzi, and at that moment, she is dressed exactly like the character from the film Metropolis, which represents Lucifer in that movie. The worst part is how closely she is linked to Marina Abramovich. You can practically see them as best friends. Marina Abramovich is often seen as a figure associated with ritualistic performances, and many artists turn to her for these kinds of shows. And it's not just at Coachella. During another performance, Lady Gaga appeared right in the middle of a giant eye, a clear symbol suggesting total control by higher powers. Whether you like it or not, Lady Gaga has been surrounded by these strange symbols for a long time. Even back in Poker Face, she was already making the eye sign, and that song came out in 2008, so she hasn't been the same for a very long time.
I refuse to give any of them attention, time, or money anymore.
Longest fast on record that we know of was 382 days. Think about that. This dude went for over a year without eating. Reversed every disease he had, lost, I think, like 200 pounds. 382 days. Everything you think you knew about nutrition, pretty much wrong.
382 days? Wow.
So a guy
Jesus did 40 days, 40 nights.
I kept losing his chickens. They would go through a hole and they would never come out. So this guy was like, well, where the fuck are these chickens going? So they broke down the wall to figure out where the chickens go. And they found an underground city that can hold 20,000 people with many, many levels deep into the ground. Yeah,
Wow, it's like an
yes.
anthill.
Darren Kuyu in Turkey. Nobody knew about it. Nobody knew who made it. There's no record of it.
And
It
it
can
stayed.
house 20,000 people in there.
What was it for?
No one knows.
Wonder how the waste system worked.
So why do we see this inverted arch or bowl shape underneath it attached to the top of the world with stars in it and whatnot, right? They don't put the stars in the background. They put the stars on the apex dome. Here it is again. These are the frilly clouds. These are different constellations, possibly even animals, you know, beyond the dome and stuff like that come into our world. They're telescopes, right? I was just watching Understanding Conspiracy, and he was mentioning how they're shutting down all of these observatories and they're removing access to the public of places that we have built to specifically watch the heavens, to be sky watchers, to look at the heavens, because the heavens are going to show us the times that we live in. They're going to show us when we should start getting ready, when we should start, you know, preparing ourselves for these apocalypses or these lifting or removing of the firmament. Here it is again, another one, the apex dome, Jesus up there, the frilly blue cloud.
You hear about the virus that's going around recently?
Oh yeah, the
It's
Hansa?
a- Yeah. What's so crazy, Planet of the Apes was about a virus.
Wait, was it?
You don't know the original story?
No, I actually don't.
Source of the virus was traced back to drug testing done at Genesis Laboratories in San Francisco.
A lab technician, now known as Patient Zero, was accidentally exposed to retrovirus ALZ-113, an Alzheimer's trial drug that was being tested on chimpanzees.
They were researching on a cure for Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
He pretty much gave it to his chimp to test, and it made his chimp smart.
Oh.
What ended up happening, because he became smart, he took that cure and gave it to all the monkeys in the zoo, the primate sanctuaries, every one of them, all the apes.
They all had like a consciousness.
They all had consciousness, and then eventually they were able to speak because they given all the apes that serum.
Yeah.
There ended up becoming a virus.
Oh.
It made a lot of humans sick, and it killed a whole bunch of humans. And then the chimps became smart, but the humans dumbed down.
They started to
Or
die
they
down and all
died
that.
down. Yeah. And eventually the virus made it so that humans stopped speaking. They
What?
started losing their voice.
Yo, that could be what's happening right now.
And the mortality rate associated with this type of illness is around 38%. So more than a third of the people, according to the Center for Disease Control in the United States, will die.
You know, there is a video made 12 years ago on how to survive the hantavirus.
Are people that during these completely physiological, normal, paralytic phases of sleep, when they're waking up and they're in an altered state of consciousness for a brief amount of time, they are experiencing hallucinatory, demonic images, sensations, and feelings. I also don't really like the word hallucination because the definition of a hallucination, it's sort of a really clinical way of calling someone delusional. You're seeing something that's not there. And the fact of the matter is these people are seeing things that are there. It's just that they're not where they think they are. So they're still not quite in the physical realm.
You're signing your allegiance for 1 billion years.
So you're signing your soul.
Exactly. It sounds like science fiction. Why is that? Because L. Ron Hubbard, he's the one that created Scientology. And if you look into his background, him and Jack Parsons were actually apprentices of the none other than Aleister Crowley. Who's Aleister Crowley? The greatest occultist of all time. They all used to do rituals in Pasadena, California, in a mansion. So Jack Parsons, which, he worked with L. Ron Hubbard. He was a rocket scientist himself. He was a physicist, rocket scientist. Guess what he started?
What he started?
JPL, the Jet Propulsion Lab, which is a part of NASA. So we have an occultist in our government, surprise, surprise, which is still running today.
There's a lot of weirdness in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Is there any references to anything that's similar, like Anunnaki type characters in the Dead Sea Scrolls?
They show up everywhere. In the Dead Sea Scrolls, and the Enuma Elish, and the Epic of Atrahasis. Of course, even in the Bible, they're known as the Anak, A-N-A-K. We were grasshoppers in their eyesight, it says in the biblical text. No matter where you go in any culture, you're going to discover that these beings, in some way, shape, or form, engaged mankind, brought knowledge, teaching, building techniques, and just so much more wisdom and information, esoteric wisdom, alchemy. All these things came from these people.
Billy is cooked. He got cooked by, what's his name? Wes Huff.
Most people don't realize that there's depictions of the Bible all throughout it, but there is also astrological information in there. There's alchemical imagery.
Sacred geometry.
In there. The front doors of Notre Dame Cathedral of Paris, if you go to the very front doors, there's these medallions that are right at head level as you're going in the doors, surrounding the doors. They actually depict every stage of the alchemical process because they were trying to preserve that information.
Medical mystery solved. A woman started acting strangely, and initially surgeons thought that she had a brain tumor. But when they opened her up, a surprising find. Eyewitness News reporter Joe Torres spoke to her about the bizarre diagnosis.
The good news is I don't have cancer.
That's also surprising news because doctors at Mount Sinai Hospital thought just the opposite until last September when neurosurgeons opened up Rachel Palma's skull. They fully expected to find a marble-sized malignant brain tumor. Instead, they found a parasite.
We were overjoyed. We were cheering and clapping. We were so happy in the OR. When we got in there and we saw that it was actually a tapeworm, we were like, yes, we were so happy.
So according to your research, you found that all humans have this, and as long as we're healthy, we're okay with it because the body can handle it. My next question to you is, how do we rid ourselves of these tenacious bacteria, parasites, and virus? Do you have an answer to that?
The answer that I came up with already in the first books was the hull of the black walnut tree, but the hull has to be green. There is something in the green hull that kills everything I ever tested for, which doesn't mean everything, but let's say close to 100 parasite varieties.
So you're telling me that in all of our pharmacology, all the millions of dollars spent with research and cancer, the native Indians who were using this hundreds of years ago already had the solution to cancer?
Those who were, yes, but I don't know how much folklore there is around this herbal product, and there are many other good herbal products out there. I'm sure there must be other things that can do the same thing.
But you found this to be the best product.
Yes, and now we have a freeze-dried product which is even more potent than the alcohol extract that we call a tincture. And the apparently freeze-drying preserves some extra elements so that you don't even really need the cloves and the wormwood with it. Now, not enough experiments have been done so that I can say you never need them. But a person can now use a freeze-dried variety and be saved the extra chore of taking so much cloves and wormwood.
Ooh. What is the name of her books? I would like to read them. If you know, please drop a comment.
NPCs here. This is the weird part of the game. Everybody should be treated as you, but you have non-player characters.
Yeah.
So
NPC, baby.
What you had here is a very small percentage of people who incarnated who knew this. So they're like, I'm going to go punk the NPCs and I'm going to go make the NPCs do labor and because they're.
But so for people who are actually listening to this and who don't know what NPCs are, what are NPCs?
NPCs are non-player characters. There are people existing in our reality that have nothing. They're just energy. There's no soul. They just go through the motions of life. And throughout my travels in the last 4 years, or a little over 4 years, I've met plenty of non-player characters. I've met AI in human form, I've met people, a bunch of people that couldn't remember the first 20 years of their life. Now that's strange. That's it. What I'm saying is their memories were implanted, but you have non-player characters existing as energy here.
Did you know that in ancient Greek mythology, the greatest healer in the world could never
Is a horse?
heal himself? Meet Chiron, the wise centaur who possessed incredible healing powers, but carried a wound that would never close. This isn't just a sad story. It's the blueprint for every authentic healer who has ever lived. Shamanic traditions across the globe understand something profound. The best healers are called to their work through their own suffering. Not because pain makes us noble, but because walking through the fire ourselves creates genuine understanding, not just pity. Joseph Campbell taught that our deepest wounds, when properly healed and integrated, become our greatest gifts. Think about it. Would you rather receive guidance from someone who read about your struggle in a textbook, or someone who has walked that dark path and found their way out? But here's the crucial difference. There's a world between healed wounds and bleeding wounds. Integrated wisdom creates powerful healers. Unprocessed trauma creates what we call wounded wounders, people who spread their pain instead of transforming it. If this video resonated with you, please like, comment, and subscribe.
Anthony the Great of Egypt, the father of monasticism, 270 AD-ish.
Oh, wild world.
Crazy.
But he's like, I'm just going to go live as a monk. He found a vacant tomb. Basically, someone followed him out there. He's like, I'm just going to live in here. And if you could just bring me bread every now and then. He lived in this tomb, and the stories that he tells and that people tell around Anthony the Great are insane. At one point, he literally battled the devil himself. So this one story, these demons just start tormenting him in this tomb, and they literally beat him up so bad to where he almost died. They started attacking him more and more. And at this point, he had just been praying and praying. And this is such a cool quote. Our trust in the Lord is like a seal to us and like a wall of safety. And as soon as he said that, the ceiling just opened up. The whole cave was shaking and just a piercing light came in. All the demons fled, and God spoke to him, because you have endured and have not been defeated. I will always be your helper, and I will make your name known everywhere.
Wow.
He inspired thousands and thousands and thousands of monks.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And almost 2,000 years later, we're talking about it still. And his
Oh, by the way, Michelangelo painted that at age 14.
Show me one professional, one scientist, one meteorologist that's denying climate change. They don't exist. It's a completely fabricated concept to try to discredit anybody who's pointing out that the whole climate change narrative has been manufactured, and it's based upon certain assumptions that completely don't come out legitimately once you've examined them. Because most people don't realize, okay, well, we're measuring glacier recession from the point at which the glaciers were the biggest they were in 10,000 years.
Exactly.
And see, this is what's not being told, and it's deliberate. It's a deliberate deception.
Unfortunately, a lot of people will see this as an excuse to pollute and ruin.
The U.S. government has reportedly recovered 4 distinct species of alien life forms from crash sites. According to former CIA officials, these aren't just classical grays. They include reptilians, insectoids, and human-looking Nordics. This is why the FBI is now investigating the sudden disappearances of nearly a dozen top military scientists. Experts who were secretly tied to UFO disclosure have now just vanished? Coincidence? I think not. Did they know too much about these recovered entities? But the real mind-bender is the human-looking Nordic species. And this lines up with scripture in Hebrews chapter 13, verse 2, which warns us that we may have entertained angels without knowing it. You see, thousands of years ago, they didn't have the word extraterrestrial. They used the word angel, which means messenger. But the question is, what message do these aliens have for us? And are we ready for it? Can we handle it? Should we baptize these aliens? Has scripture been warning us that they've been walking among us this whole time? Drop your comments down below. And like always, stay sharp, my friends.
Man, these damn aliens ain't paying no bills. Like us, what the...
And we were staying kind of maybe like in the strip area of Sedona.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had a kind of a far off look from it. Because if you go to the actual trail, you're almost too close to it to appreciate what you're actually hiking around. But let me see this picture right here. This one was like, I could not even believe my eyes when I saw this from the distance. Check this out.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. 100% pyramid.
Wow. Again, this was my first time in Sedona, so I didn't even know that there was a pyramid trail. We were just looking off into kind of where the the main kind of big tourist area was like a Cathedral Rock, Bell Rock, and some of these other hiking trails. And that one, I was just like, that's a pyramid.
Wow,
that's a pyramid.
Beautiful pyramid one. Yeah, I have an upcoming pyramid episode here. We're going to do it's a 3-part series. We're going to start this Thursday, actually. So next episode, guys. And a lot of it's going to be talking about hidden pyramids in North America and stuff. I didn't even come across that one, but it's amazing how much you said, like Cathedral Rock, Bell Rock, Courthouse Rock, and then is that called Pyramid Rock, or that was Pyramid?
This was on Pyramid Trail.
There's a set of rules that each temple follows. It doesn't matter if you're Egyptian or Hindu or Greek or whatever. They all have this thread that they use, and it's usually has to do with some sort of fractal architecture, and that's, golden ratio type stuff. But if you know how to read it, then they're essentially like libraries in stone, and what they're encoding is like mathematics and stuff that you wouldn't really pull from a building, right? Because everything's in a ratio, and it looks good to your eye, but you don't know why it looks good to your eye. Like people say this is the best architecture ever, and you're like, well, can you explain why it is? And they're just like, no, this is just classical architecture. It's the best.
Yeah.
But when you look at it, there's stuff hidden in it, like there's like the Greek columns have like the pattern of magnetism in them, those ionic columns. They're called ionic, and they used ionic. It's like there's this thread that flows between them, and it's like this continual transmission of knowledge. And you're like, okay, well, where did these guys get this?
Living in 1726. In 1991, a German historian by the name of Hermann Illig proposed a theory called phantom time hypothesis, suggesting that the years 814 through 911 AD never happened. Well, you see, Illig claimed that these years were actually made up by the Holy Roman Emperor Otto III, Pope Sylvester II, and Byzantine Emperor Constantine VII. By altering documentation and converting the Gregorian calendar in order to fast forward time to the sacred year 1000 AD, as Otto's ruling that starts on the millennial year 1000 AD would sound much better and be more legitimate. This theory is further backed up, as while there are written documents, there seem to be a lot of missing artifacts from those 297 years. Looking at the example of how Tartaria was written out of existence, it seems like it really wouldn't be that hard for the elites of the world to rewrite history, and just maybe.
Someone told me that the Dark Ages are skipped.
After the Nephilim died, where did their spirits go? They weren't fully angels, so they couldn't go to the same place the angels went, but they weren't humans either. This is why many ancient Jewish scholars believe that after the Nephilim died, their spirits became the unclean spirits we call demons today.
That's crazy. That's what I thought.
So
that's
Satan
really
now
crazy.
had an army, but what he did next...
What does the most powerful cult believe? The blood oath, historically referred to as the Jesuit extreme oath of induction or the fourth vow, is a clandestine pledge taken by high-ranking members of the Jesuit order when they're elevated to a position of command. The most important elements of the oath center on the total submission of the individual and the commitment to the violent suppression of all opposition to the papacy. The oath was hidden from the public for a long time, but was then exposed by historian G.B. Nicolini in his work History of the Jesuits and by Edwin Sherman in his book called Engineer Corps of Hell. According to the sources, they initiate promises to have no opinion or will of their own, and they swear to be moved by their superiors like a corpse or cadaver, acting as an unthinking tool in the hands of the superior general. The oath affirms that the Pope is Christ's vice-regent and holds the power to depose heretical kings, princes, and governments, declaring them illegal so that they may be safely destroyed. Initiates swear to wage a relentless war, secretly or openly, against all heretics, Protestants, and liberals. The text includes graphic promises to hang, burn, waste, and boil these enemies, including women and infants, to annihilate forever their execrable race. It does not matter to them the status, rank, or even the dignity of the person in question, and they are even ready to the wombs of their women and smash their head against the wall. When open warfare is impossible, they initiate promises to use the poison cup, the strangulatory cord, or the leaden bullet. Lovely bunch of fellas, aren't they? Author Eric John Phelps writes in Vatican Assassins that the oath is reportedly taken by no more than 2% of the order. A Jesuit is typically not permitted to take these final vows until he is 45 years old and has spent 31 years in the society. This is further confirmed by former Irish Catholic nun Margaret Anna Cussack and the Black Pope. Ex-Jesuit priest Alberto Rivera also emphasizes how the Jesuit order is sending their spies and infiltrators massively into Protestant and Orthodox churches, but they also have an anti-Jewish agenda and are trying to reach the destruction of the state of Israel to establish the upcoming papal rulership from a rebuilt Solomon's temple in Jerusalem.
This is the most haunted place in Japan. The Kiyotaki Tunnel in Kyoto is known for being one of the most haunted and mysterious places in all of Japan. The tunnel was originally built as a part of the Atagayama Railway between 1927 and 1928, spanning no more than 1,500 feet long, connecting northern Arashiyama to the small town of Saga Kiyotaki. However, this seemingly ordinary tunnel has a history of violence and death. After all, it was built by slaves who were either executed on sight or died in horrifying accidents. People who drive through the tunnel have reported seeing shadows following them in their mirrors, and that they can hear the screams of women coming from the nearby forest. Many have also admitted that while driving through the tunnel, they will be mysteriously overcome with fatigue, extreme headaches, and even nausea. That is why people say that.
In 1963, a man in Turkey was renovating his home. When he knocked down a wall, he found a tunnel behind it. That tunnel led to one of the most extraordinary archaeological discoveries of the 20th century, Derinkuyu, an underground city carved entirely into the volcanic rock of Cappadocia, 18 stories deep, capable of housing up to 20,000 people along with their livestock, food stores, wineries, churches, schools, and ventilation shafts, so precisely engineered that fresh air reaches every level. The oldest sections have been dated to at least the 8th century BCE. Through some researchers placed the earliest construction considerably earlier. The Hittites, the Phrygians, and later the early Christians also used and expanded it, each civilization inheriting and building upon what the previous one left behind. The ventilation system alone should not have been possible, for the era it was built in. Thousands of shafts connecting every level to the surface, maintaining breathable air throughout a structure that descends 60 meters into the earth. The engineering precision required to execute this without modern tools or surveying technology is something mainstream archaeology has never fully explained. The city could be sealed from the inside using massive circular stone doors that only opened and closed from within. Whoever built the deepest levels understood that they might need to disappear completely from the surface world for extended periods. What they were hiding from is the question nobody has definitely answered. Derinkuyu is open to the visitors today, but only 8 of 18 known levels are accessible to the public. The remaining levels are still being excavated or not being excavated, depending on who you ask. For the deeper esoteric and historical layer of what Derinkuyu actually was, join my private study circle on Telegram, link is in bio. Now tell me, have you heard of this place? And what do you think they were hiding from?
Perhaps more efficient and better for climate of the surrounding.
So it looks like Elon is about to become a trillionaire because he just made a major move. Because he just filed this ticker for an IPO for SpaceX to become public. Now, in this SEC filings, he had to disclose all of SpaceX holdings, in which I found something pretty interesting. SpaceX actually holds over 18,000 Bitcoin at an average cost price at $35,000, which puts it about $1.4 billion right now. But it gets even wilder, you guys. Anthropic, who actually owns Claude AI, has just agreed to pay SpaceX $1.25 billion per month for the next 3 years. Now, this deal includes compute capacity for the AI model for training, infrastructure, demand, and this whole entire deal is worth $45 billion. Now, speaking of the SEC and Bitcoin, why do I feel like this is part of a bigger play? Because they just announced they're about to allow blockchain-based tokenized stock trading. In short, what tokenization is, real-world assets like real estate and stocks will be broken up in a fractionalized manner and represented on blockchain. Which also means all the big boys like Apple, Tesla, Amazon, SpaceX will all be traded on DeFi platforms. Remember that new system I kept telling you guys about? This is it. Now, wasn't it funny? While we were all distracted with those billionaires that followed Trump to China, this was happening at the same time. The Clarity Act just passed the Senate Banking Committee, which gives crypto and blockchain regulatory clarity for this entire new system. Are we starting to see a trend yet? I mean, why else would BlackRock be hiring for high-paying crypto jobs that pay up to $350,000 per position? States here, Director for Digital Asset Legal Counsel, Associate for Digital Infrastructure Private Equity, but it's all a coincidence, right?
Nope.
Right? Don't think so, because right after the Clarity Act, this happened. Kevin Walsh just became the new Fed chair. who is also pro-crypto and even holds crypto himself. Now, what does all this mean? This means a brand new economy is emerging with blockchain, crypto, AI, all working together in an ecosystem. And I'm actually doing a class on this next week for all this stuff so you won't get left behind. And I may or may not be working on a brand new platform to work in tandem with this whole system, but for updates, get into my school program. And let me know what you guys think about all this down below.
If you don't want to get left behind, just follow the money.
They will claim that they are aliens that actually walk and live among us because they look just like us.
4 different species of aliens. Another scientist called them Greys, Nordics, Insectoids, and Reptilians.
Now, the interesting part is that one of these aliens is a humanoid, and it's called Nordic.
Witnesses often describe them as peaceful and wise.
But the only difference is that they have superior powers beyond what natural human beings have, which means these humanoids would have supernatural powers that they possess in them, obviously as aliens, that we as regular human beings do not have. And this is going to drive a hysteria or a confusion amongst many people. And many people might even fall for the deception of wanting to be one of these humanoids, because the difference between them and us is going to be that they possess a supernatural power that you as a regular human being might not have.
We know what the Freemasons were up to. Freemasons who caused all of those revolutions against really the Christian empire.
Another theory could be that the reason why they have this disclosure for the humanoids is that there might be a reasoning that says, hey, they are these human aliens that already walk among us. They look like us. They behave like us. So we do not know who they are and how are they hiding within society. The only way that we can determine if you are not an alien, if you are a true human and you're not a humanoid, we have to validate your humanity. Now, I honestly think that would be a strategy that could potentially work, and that could get people lining up by the thousands and the millions to verify themselves as being humans so they do not get shut down from society. Are you catching on?
But what we do know is that that DNA seems to have originated around 600,000 years ago, probably before Neanderthals existed. Which blows my mind, because it means that interbreeding with ancient human species was kind of ubiquitous for our human species. Homo sapiens were constantly, apparently, on every continent having sex with other species. In short, there was no single line of ancestry leading to where we are today. Through our migrations and over millennia, via gene exchange, modern humans gradually coalesced into a composite of multiple ancient human lineages. We are a mosaic species.
The fourth one, which is a regulatory unit that I became obviously most interested in, which is something called BCL11A. And BCL11A turns out to be the switch that Becker never knew about in his regeneration program. He found in his work in mammals that if you could put 1 trillionth of 1 ampere of current in a red blood cell, you can make it go back in time to it have a nucleus so that it eventually go back further in time in evolutionary history and become a pluripotential cell. And that would be the cell that regenerated bone. He was alive, but he did not know while he was alive this story about BCL11A. Why? Because it is the switch on chromosome 2 that turns fetal red blood cells into adult red blood cells. So that means it's the key to regeneration.
The angular relation of 2 edges of a pentagon is 108 degrees. To what extent has that knowledge been known to ancient peoples. I mean, there's so much evidence at this point that can only be explained by making your working assumption be that there were advanced civilizations in the past that have left very little record, but enough record that if you're looking at it from the right perspective, it becomes pretty much glaringly obvious that, yeah, there's a whole lot more going on in human history. It's a whole lot deeper and a whole lot more complex. Now suddenly we realize that, Graham Hancock's been right all along, that there's more to it. But we're just barely, I think, at this point, beginning to get the dim outlines of what that might have been. And one reason we've overlooked it is because we're looking in a mirror. If we don't see our own reflection, something that looks like what we've already created and what we call civilization, if it doesn't look like that, then it's not civilization. We're kind of at a point now where we have to accept the fact that it's looking more and more like that there is such a dimension to our historical past. And that is also associated with the whole concept of repeated cycles of catastrophe.
What I have never heard anyone talk about is sapient tech. And that's what I'm worried about, because sapience isn't just human-like conversation. Now we're talking higher reasoning. If we don't understand when that is, or we don't have the self-discipline or the fear of God to put it down, will we be culpable as participators in divination?
Yeah.
And will we then swallow the judgment pill of what happens to people who break those commands?
Right now, the third and final rabbit hole of this Money Runs the World episode. We ran through the free energy suppression. We ran through the Federal Reserve control system, which is a little bit too lengthy. But now, arguably, the most important, the most scary, is the Epstein files. And it was once a conspiracy to say that a global elite pedophile network controlled the world with implicated billionaires and politicians. And as I have often said, the difference between a conspiracy and the truth is very often the passage of time. So an outline for the TNT Epstein files, the Tepstein files. So we're going to start off with he did not kill himself and the suicide cover-up, and then his rise to prominence part 1, which includes the Barr family and the Dalton School catalyst. Then we're going to get into the Franklin scandal and MK Monarch and historical child trafficking. Then his Pizzagate and WikiLeaks and their correlation with each other. Then the 2008 Sweetheart deal and the Harvard Math Department connection. Then the rise to prominence part 2, Epstein's connection to the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the Trilateral Commission, and the Council on Foreign Relations. Then the multi-decade FBI cover-up, and then the ignition, Robert Maxwell. If you're going to understand the Epstein files, you need to understand how he was birthed, and it all goes back to Robert Maxwell, the triple agent. And then finally, probably the most important section of the entire podcast, the quote-unquote weird shit section with Epstein, the New Mexico Zorro Ranch and the connection to the UFO phenomenon, secret science, lost civilizations in Atlantis, his anti-aging adrenochrome type theory emails, and then of course just the satanic Luciferianism rituals with Baal and Molech, and another kill list with the Epstein files. So Chapter 1, he did not kill himself, and it is glaringly obvious if you do any type of research yourself. So we're going to start off with the suicide cover-up, who covered it up, and why that's going to lead us down the path to the entire story of Epstein and the web of cartels, secret societies, and satanic control system that is dominating our world as we know it today. Yeah, Epstein did not kill himself. It's not even close. If you're an irrational human being and you look into this case, it is overwhelmingly clear that this was a murder. If he was killed at all, it was a murder. August 10, 2019, this is when the most connected pedophile in American history was found dead in his Manhattan jail cell. The official story was suicide by hanging from the top bunk using a bedsheet, which I generally don't even think Epstein is capable of killing himself with a bedsheet. I don't even think he could tie a good knot together like that.
What is the Matrix really? Imagine finding yourself at a huge gathering with thousands of people where you are the only sober person and everyone else is completely drunk. The other partygoers are in varying states of intoxication, and their drunkenness represents how deeply they are controlled by the fog of their own conditioning, fears, and emotional wounds. You watch them cycle constantly between being happy and sad, fighting and making up, completely consumed by the drama of the party rather than any human connection. The most tragic realization at this party is that no one else knows that their interactions are no longer under their own control. They are entirely unaware of your sobriety and will continually attempt to drag you into their drama and distorted perceptions. Waking up means realizing that you, too, used to be just like them, intoxicated by the same societal conditioning and participating in the same chaotic folly. Becoming a master of self requires staying sober at the party. It means engaging with the dream of the planet and the people in it without losing sight of your authentic self.
What if you don't want to engage with those drunken people?
Fox News literally just said this.
4 different species of aliens. Another scientist called them greys, Nordics, insectoids, and reptilians. All of them have 2 arms and 2 legs, just like us. Experts speculate the reptilians are scaly with long tails like a lizard. Insectoids look like a praying mantis. The greys look like your classic movie alien, and the Nordics look like a regular Swedish guy, but 7 feet tall. We haven't seen the evidence, but Pete Hegseth says more evidence is coming, and there are a lot of believers in Congress.
I have seen evidence in a skiff that leads me to believe there are things we cannot explain, and I have observed things that are of non-human origin and creation. That's my opinion.
You see, people, everything
I don't believe nothing they say. They have been lying the whole time.
been taught from the very beginning has been a lie, a complete lie. We've been programmed. They've been lying to us this entire time. They're creating cities like that to make us stay on a low frequency.
That's what I said.
Because really, this is the life we should be living. A lot of y'all are not thinking for yourselves. We are completely being controlled, like completely. They've been controlling this whole entire time. But we shouldn't be panicking, people. We should be organizing. And this is how we organize. We all get together. We fucking shock the reptilians there by loving each other, coming together. This is what we got to do, people. Just live life. Be happy. Eat with everybody in the communities. Just enjoy life. Live it. And that frequency of your heart just being happy, not trying to ruin people's lives, not trying to be
That's right.
one of those people who keep the matrix going. This is what happens, people. Just love. That's it. Just love.
The argument is, the question is, why the fuck are they doing this gigantic ritualistic display and show for the opening of a tunnel? What purpose does it serve in any way? In any way. I don't care. Like, you can argue, oh, they wanted to celebrate. Why would they use costumes and demonic signals and symbols and all that? Why? Why would they be having these symbolic workers? Like, why wouldn't they line up the actual workers and celebrate the actual workers in a real celebration instead of a weird ritualistic ceremony? So it's just, why?
First part of this isn't so bad. Just a choreographed dance put on by people dressed up as construction workers.
Is Bush a reptilian? Cathy O'Brien is the author of the 1995 book called Transformation of America and the survivor of CIA's project MKUltra. In the book, she speaks about how she was born into an abusive family and her abusive father, Earl O'Brien, sold her to the American government for a hefty paycheck. She was sold particularly to Senator Robert C. Byrd in 1970 and was recruited for mind control projects called Project Monarch and MKUltra. These were CIA's top secret programs dealing with mind control research and the sexual abuse of women and children. The mind-controlling sexual abuse methods were first developed by Nazi Dr. Joseph Mengele and were later perfected by CIA and the Jesuit order. Cathy O'Brien explains how she was brutally beaten by several top-level politicians like Gerald Ford, Dick Cheney, George H.W. Bush, as well as Hillary and Bill Clinton. Cathy said that George H.W. Bush, who was referred to as Father George, specifically liked Cathy's younger daughter Kelly, and he often violently her too along with Cathy. One day in his office in the mid-1980s, O'Brien claims he appeared to transform into a 7-foot reptilian monster before her eyes. Bush told Cathy that he was an alien from another planet and that his group of aliens had taken over planet Earth, but people do not recognize this because they at first appeared to be human. O'Brien initially rationalized this as a hologram activated by Bush to maximize the effectiveness of her alien team programming. However, independent journalist and Cathy's personal friend, David Icke, tends to disagree. While Cathy rationalizes the reptilian transformations as high-tech light displays or holograms use the stereotactics, Icke claims these are literal shape-shifting reptilian humanoids and claims he has met hundreds of people who have seen a literal transformation take place where a person's skin or eyes become reptilian. He presents the theory of locked and open DNA sequences, suggesting that reptilian hybrid bloodlines can open certain genetic codes to trigger literal transformation of cellular structure. Icke also points to consistent accounts across cultures such as Zulu legends of the Chitauri or the Hindu Nagas, who were described as shape-shifting serpent gods. In summary, Icke believes that O'Brien's rationalization is a result of her own conditioned view of reality and that what she saw was literal.
Reptilians play roles as politicians and presidents.
Have you ever read about that part where the demons began their seductions onto mankind?
That's right. The church had that taken out of your Bible. That's next on the trumpet. This is all after the flood when they made giants. And that's the book that the church has been hiding from you. Before Moses wrote the law of Moses, there was the book of Jubilees. And the fallen angels are right at the beginning of it. They're called the Nephilim. You can read right there where they took the daughters of men and then they sinned against the beast. And then they slew each other. Go to my bio page right there and then click on my link tree so you can download your free copy of the Book of Jubilees, Chapter 7. It's going to pop up right there as soon as you click on that PDF. And if you want the Apocrypha Bible or the Dead Sea Scrolls Codex, go right there and click on that button, and I'll wrap them in leather for you. Chapter 7 is going to be all about when Noah made the wine. Ham sinned against him, and the demons seduced mankind. All that's like on page 2. Come on, we'll read the Dead Sea Scrolls together, because you know me and my family love you. So like and follow the trumpet for more. And in Jesus' name, have a blessed day.
The CIA and other powerful institutions have long monitored the mountains of the Middle East for strange phenomena. Here are 4 of these mountains. First, we have the Atlas Mountains. According to Greek myth, here, the hero Perseus used Medusa's head to turn the Titan Atlas into a mountain range spanning from Morocco to Tunisia, where he was cursed to hold up the heavens for eternity. But today, the Atlas Range has been home to far stranger things. From rumors of an invisible boundary that constantly shifts location, where all sound immediately vanishes, an auditory dead zone, to declassified CIA records concerning UAP encounters dating back to 1952. At number 3 is Mount Ararat in Turkey, a location that is not only home to a number of strange disappearances, but also, according to more declassified CIA files, the possible resting place for Noah's Ark. Known as the Ararat Anomaly, satellite imagery from 1949 revealed a large boat-shaped structure near the summit, leading to a several decades-long investigation into the area. At number 2, the 1976 Tehran incident. On September 19th, Iranian Air Force pilots were scrambled after reports of a glowing object was spotted near the Alborz Mountains. It was tracked toward the area of Mount Damavand before vanishing. But long before this encounter, Damavand already had a reputation for high strangeness. For decades, residents and visitors talk about disembodied cries and moans emanating from here with no clear source. Geologists have suggested these are likely the sounds of shifting tectonic plates, but according to the lore of the region, a powerful supernatural entity remains trapped here, an ancient serpent king. At number 1 is Hermon on the borders of Syria and Lebanon. Unlike the other mountains, it's not famous because of CIA interest, but actually more powerful institutions. Near the summit stands a UN outpost known as Position 12. Some speculate that this installation was built near a singularity, described either as a gateway to hell or a stargate to other worlds. Position 12 sits near the ruins of Qasr Antar, a pagan temple complex first surveyed in 1869. Here, an ancient artifact was recovered that some believe is proof of the Anunnaki's existence on Earth. Unfortunately, that artifact was technically essentially classified by the British Museum after being handed over by the archaeologist, police commissioner, and master Freemason, Sir Charles Warren. And this is where the story gets crazy. Watch the full documentary, Mount Hermon's Dark Occult Connections. It's live now.
It says satellite imagery from 1949. Whatever you say.
She claimed she saw members of the royal family, including Prince Philip and the Queen Mother, shift into reptilian forms right in front of her eyes, and suddenly, that eerie stiffness people always noticed about the royals, the lack of warmth, the unnatural body language, the hollow expressions. According to Diana's alleged claims, it wasn't an act, it was camouflage. The theory goes even deeper. Some believe these reptilian bloodlines trace back centuries, linking royal families to ancient rulers worshipped as gods. And then comes the darkest connection of all.
In recent months, Congressperson Anna Paulina Luna from Florida, a Republican member of the U.S. House of Representatives, has unexpectedly brought the ancient Book of Enoch into modern political conversation. especially in discussions about UAPs and non-human intelligence. This is one of the most profound discussions that is going on in our planet right now. And the point was not that Congress is endorsing a religious text as evidence, but that ancient literature might contain descriptions of encounters with non-human entities that will help us to understand what's going on. Welcome to Ancient Aliens 2026.
I hope she has private security or she doesn't disappear.
Since I left CIA, I distinguish between the deep state, which is the Vatican, the Rothschilds, and the Chabad Jews. And then they use the Freemasons and the Knights of Malta as fixers, and they use the City of London, Wall Street, central banks as managers. That's the deep state. Below the deep state is the shadow government, which is comprised of the politicians and senior bureaucrats. Those are the shadow government people, but they're not the deep state. They're the best of the servant class. Most of the so-called world leaders, they are slaves. If you don't have something they can blackmail with you, they won't let you rise to the top. They would need people who are servants. So I went direct to David Rockefeller. I talked to the Rothschild, and they pointed me to the P2 Freemason Lodge, to the people in Switzerland and Italy who are the secret brokers behind this. And they told me they worship the Black Sun and that they wanted to create a world fascist government controlled by descendants of the Caesars. So even the Jews, the high-level Jews, are slaves to these satanic tyrants. Well, call them Caesar's descendant.
If you are looking... No doubt in my mind do I believe that what you're about to see is a reptilian caught on camera. These urbex explorers, urban explorers, urbex, that's what it stands for, found a hole in the ground and accidentally caught something, not knowing they caught something, with children's clothes and children's toys. And if you know anything about what's going on in this world today, I think this is a reptilian. I'm going to show you.
Let me see.
And then I'm going to show you the freeze screenshot of it all. What do you think this is? Because it phases into the wall, which if you know, as an interdimensional... Know what? Let me shut up.
Yeah.
7, 6, 11, 5, 9 and 20 miles today, 4, 11, 17, 32 the day before. Boot, boot.
Yo, don't go in there.
Boot, moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the war. Don't.
Oh, yeah. That's so fast.
Moving up and down again. Men go mad with watching them. There's no discharge in the war. If your eyes drop,
Oh, right there, on the left. No?
Moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the wall. Try. Think of something different.
Did you catch it? Now I slowed it down so you can see it. Tell me what the fuck this is. It goes into the wall. This is not AI. This is footage. Look at it slow down.
Yeah, right there.
What the fuck is that? What is that? And then phases into the wall? This is I strongly believe this is a reptilian. I strongly. Like, first off, I'm not doing that without a gun. Like, you bugging. What do you think, though? Do you think that's just for satire purposes, or do you believe? If you know, you know.
I remember years ago a prophecy, and the prophecy was February 4th, not the year, that a man had been born and he was going to be revealed as the Antichrist. And he would have had an unusual upbringing. He would have been connected to Mesopotamia, the Crescent, Iran, Iraq. He would have been raised by an uncle. And this was a prophecy that was, I don't think it was from Nostradamus and his quatrains, his 4 sentences that was called a quatrain, prophecies back in the day.
So today I was reading about crypto Jews, and it's interesting how they
Crypto Jews? Or cryptic Jews?
fooled the Catholic Church for 500 years. In 1492, Spain forced its Jewish population to choose between conversion and exile. Most chose conversion and then kept everything. Behind closed doors, they lit Shabbat candles on Friday nights, whispered Hebrew prayers their children memorized without understanding why, kept dietary laws disguised as personal preference, buried their dead in Jewish tradition, and attended Mass the following morning without missing a bit. The Inquisition built entire apparatus of torture, specifically to expose them, and still could not fully break their network, because the transmission happened in places no inquisitor could penetrate. Grandmothers and granddaughters in kitchens, mother and daughters in the most private domestic spaces of daily life. The church burned people for this, and the practice survived anyway. Communities in Brazil, Mexico, Portugal, and American Southwest are discovering their crypto-Jewish ancestry today. Families lighting candles on Friday nights for 500 years with no memory of why. The body carrying the ritual long after the mind forgot the meaning. The institution that claimed absolute spiritual authority over an entire continent could not extinguish a grandmother whispering to her granddaughter in kitchen. Everything I cannot say here about what was actually preserved and how it survived lives inside my private study circle on Telegram, link is in bio. What do you think they were really trying to destroy?
Ancient Egyptians held these every single day. These are called the Wands of Horus. You can see them in the hands of pharaohs and priests. The ancient Egyptians believed that disease and affliction came from disharmony within the body. 1 copper, 1 zinc were designed to regulate that, to harmonize your body's energy. Interestingly, when you hold them, you do actually feel something. Not everyone gets it straight away. Sometimes it's instant. Sometimes it takes a few minutes. But when it clicks, you feel it. And it's kind of hard to explain. I've been making these by hand for 4 years now. Every set is cast from 99% pure copper and zinc. No shortcuts. Follow if you want to learn more about how these actually work.
I want to try it.
You know, if you add turmeric to honey, then add a pinch of black pepper, a little cinnamon and ginger, and mix it well, you create golden honey, one of the most powerful natural remedies ever used.
Really?
This ancient mixture has been used for centuries to crush inflammation, relieve joint pain and stiffness, soothe sore throats, clear the lungs and sinuses, ease period cramps, boost digestion, and even help balance blood sugar.
Has to be a real honey though, right?
Read banned books. When a book is banned, it is telling you about the mind that banned it, not the book itself. The book itself, when it is banned, has something inside of it that you need to know. Inside of Beloved was certainly the first real picture that we felt of what it was like to be a slave. Toni Morrison was not just a writer. Toni Morrison changed the goddamn weather. She was a remarkable force. And when she walked into the room, everything would change. I will never forget someone asking her what it was like to write this book, and she said, "It terrified me." I point and dedicate this review to non-toxic masculinity. And I was reading banned books when you were a twinkle in your parents' eye. And I love you so much, and I'm on the team.
Objects that bring demons.
You know, it's funny how a lot of banned books were a part of school curriculums at one point.
Into your house. Tarot cards. Used for readings and fortune-telling, tarot cards are often connected to the supernatural. Piggy banks and luck charms.
Piggy bank, really? Really, piggy bank? Man, I had piggy bank when I was a kid.
Objects connected to luck, money, or worshipping material things are sometimes warned against spiritually. Evil eye charm.
Okay.
Some people believe these symbols carry spiritual energy and shouldn't be used as protection. Lucky horseshoes. Often treated as good luck symbols, but some believe trusting objects for protection crosses spiritual lines. Dream catchers. Originally made for spiritual traditions, some people avoid using them because of their deeper meanings. Elephants of prosperity. Statues meant to attract wealth or luck are viewed by some as spiritual idols, and Karanka figures. These carved figures were believed to scare away evil spirits, which makes some people uncomfortable displaying them.
There was a dynasty of Frankish kings who ruled over what is now France between the 5th and 8th centuries, whose origins nobody has even been able to fully explain. The Merovingians. Their founder Merowick was said to have been born from 2 fathers. His mother, already pregnant by a Frankish king, was allegedly visited in the sea by a mysterious aquatic creature. The child that resulted carried something in his blood that set his entire lineage apart. The Merovingian kings were called the sorcerer kings, thaumaturges. They were said to heal the sick through touch, to carry sacred power in their very bodies. They wore their hair long, the source of their power in a tradition that echoes directly back to Samson. To cut a Merovingian king's hair was to strip him of his sovereignty. They bore a distinctive birthmark, a red cross over the heart. Same red cross the Knights Templar would carry on their mantles 6 centuries later. The Merovingian dynasty ended officially when Catholic Church backed the coup that replaced them with Carolingians. Clovis, the last Merovingian king, was deposed and placed in a monastery. The church effectively erased bloodline. It has decided was too dangerous to allow on a throne. The question serious researchers were asking for centuries, what that bloodline actually carried. Some of what I have found goes further than I can discuss here. That conversation happens inside my private study circle on Telegram. Link is in bio. Who do you think the Merovingians actually were?
So what was Charlemagne?
Cannibalism, the babies, the code words in the emails, literal emails of Epstein and Bill Gates talking about jerky. And then they're talking about the intestines of babies. They're talking about cream cheese. Like, I welcome anyone to prove me wrong because I had hoped to fucking hell that none of this was true. But when they mentioned jerky, maybe as like the more elite human meat or something, there were emails from people, redacted names again, saying, hey, I have 68 pounds of jerky in my freezer. I'm not sure what to do with it. Emails of, I need more jerky. I'm going to send it to the lab. And when Epstein knew that they were coming to arrest him, he ordered 330 gallons of sulfuric acid, which is how you would dispose of bodies. And how there's so many mentions of bury them in Zorro Ranch, leave them in Zorro Ranch. Just to add to that, the one sending the recipes, who was on the island, was Francis Derby. Francis Derby was a chef at a restaurant called Cannibal. You can't make this shit up. Is this karmic retribution? Are they telling on themselves constantly so that they don't go to hell? Motherfucker. Don't stop. Don't be dissuaded. You are living the Epstein files in this war. Peace, blessings, and shine on.
This is my chief worry as a conservative, that we have put so much power in the office of the presidency that someday the wrong man could come along. And I wouldn't be so concerned about whether he could use these powers to perpetuate himself in office, but how he would use these powers to destroy people that disagreed with him, pile up voters where voters don't usually pile up. I think Johnson is fully aware of the powers that he has, and he certainly has used them and will use them. The average person doesn't understand. For example, let's take mergers. It's becoming obvious that large businesses in some areas have to get together. Now, who has the control on this? The president, in a subtle, indirect way through the attorney general and the bureau affected, so that powerful businessmen have to become beholden to the president in order to see that their business is put in a position where they can compete. If we ever reach the point of forced arbitrary settlement of strikes, you've destroyed the labor movement, put the whole handling of wages and prices in the hands of the president. This becomes a tremendous tool. And a businessman or a union leader is going to think twice before he openly opposes a man who has that.
The Rothschilds family do not eat the same food that you do. Everything they put in their body serves a purpose, and they actually use a neurologist to do this rather than a nutritionist. This document above me explains this in detail. A chef who worked for them recounted his experience and described them avoiding seed oils, avoiding artificial sweeteners, consuming lots of animal fats, staying away from things like mint because it lowers testosterone, and even consuming certain things before big decisions because of its effect on the brain. Now, I'm not saying they're controlling the world, but if they are, It's almost like they don't want us to know their secrets, hence why all the mainstream nutritional info is the complete opposite of what they do. They're telling us to consume seed oils, to stay away from animal fats, to stay away from red meat, to be okay with consuming processed sweeteners and processed food in general. But that's just a coincidence, right? Surely the people who run the world and have the most money and control would want the best for us. Well, I hate to break it to you, but if you think that, you're a moron. Throughout history, the kings, queens, governments, whoever's in power have done what is best for them and tried to keep it from the population. So just be thankful that you're seeing this video, that you're probably part of maybe the 1% who are actually awake, who question what they've been told, and you might just live a very long, good, healthy life with high testosterone, good functionality, feeling good within yourself. While the rest of the population eats slop, eats processed food, they're all dying of diseases, constantly in and out of the hospital, and then wondering why they're in that position. Because they listen to mainstream info. We all know who's controlling the game.
Did they eat children? All right, folks. Thank you for staying till the end. I hope you like my lineup. Have a wonderful day, and God bless. And don't forget to watch my next video, okay?